Oh, I don't think I can say that on YouTube. Oh Lord. Hello, what's up? What's happening? It's your girl Ty Baby, and today we are switching it up. So today we're gonna have Bible study together. This is new for me. I've never done a video like this. I've done Bible study by myself and with loved ones and friends along the way. I can only tell you, the only reason I'm doing this is because the Lord told me to be honest. Very nervous, but I'm gonna be obedient to the Lord and what He's called me to do. So, without further ado, Lord, please use me as your vessel. Please speak for me. Allow your words to flow from my mouth. Take over my tongue, Lord. Let your love and light shine. Let me be the vessel to teach, to uplift, to enlighten, and help guide your people, dear God. May we be encouraged, uplifted, and energized by your words, and allow me to do you justice of being the vessel. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Today's Bible reads is Esther. So we're going to be reading this from the book of Esther. I won't read it to you word for word. I'm just going to focus on the themes and give the details as relevant as we walk through this chapter and hope for the best. So, context. So Esther is one of the few books in the Bible that are named after and about a woman. So that already should tell you that it's a pretty powerful story and a pretty powerful woman. She has her own book. And so this is Esther. This is also a few players around her who are important, being her cousin, her older cousin Mordecai, who actually adopted her as a child. Her parents passed away and he adopted her, took her in and raised her up. Esther, as you know, is the point of this story. Mordecai and Esther are both Jews in Persia. Why does that matter? Jews, empires, they were the points of oppression and just trying to be destroyed, annihilated. They were on the short end of a lot of racial tensions and motives. A lot of things that are very common and still happening today. So I think it's good that we see the God that is still happening and know that He has a plan and we're not powerless. And so without further ado, so we have Esther and Mordecai. They are under King Xerxes. He is the king of this Persian empire, and he is in the middle of a banquet. So I'm talking about this party has been going for 180 days, 6 months. Yes, the money is long. They got money to blow. They got drinks, wine, food, everything. Dancers, everything. So he's having a 6-month-long party. The original goal underlying this is that he's invited all of these prominent political military leaders of his kingdom and surrounding kingdoms to come, and they're supposed to be planning out their next military attack to attack Greece. More power, more authority. But all of that's to say that they've been partying for 6 months. And King Xerxes at this time has a queen. Her name is Vashti. So while all of this is going on and the king is hosting his big party, Queen Vashti said, "You ain't finna leave me out. Don't worry about nothing. Y'all having y'all party right here in the palace. Me and my girls, we're gonna go over here and have our party." So that's what she doing. She having her own party and having a good time. And so we're getting towards the end of the king's side of his party, and now the guests are plump, fat, everybody feeling good, buzzing good, talking good. And it's the closing. He about to send his people off. You had a great time. Now you got to send everybody home. So you send it off as a couple. He sends an order. Bring me my wife. I don't know if he said it like that, but apparently how he said it wasn't floating with Vashti. Because when she gets this order that says, "Hey, your husband has demanded your presence in front of his company." In essence, he wanted to parade his wife around. And just be honest. He's a very self-centered man, although God uses all of his actions for good and for his ultimate plan that we'll see. He's very self-centered. And she was like, no. She's like, "I'm not going. I don't want to be paraded around in front of these men. That doesn't sit with my culture and what we do. Yes, I'm your queen, but you got the wrong one today. I put my foot down. I'm not going." Huh? She chose the wrong day. She put her foot down and they put her foot out. So at this point, the king is now processing, my queen just told me no. My wife just told me no. In front of all these people? What you mean? Me know she coming in a few minutes. She need to get together. They said, no, we're sorry to tell you this, King Xerxes, but she said she's not coming at all. She said, get somebody else to do it. And he said, okay, I will. So at this point, he has to save face because you can't look weak. You got all these other people around you looking at you and they like, dang, I know we just plotted for 6 months on how we gonna come together, pull our powers together and go on this big militia initiative, but you can't keep your woman in check. How you gonna keep a country in check? I don't know if I'm really rocking with you. Are you as powerful as you say? These are all the things. Not saying any of it's true, but this is what's happening. This is the scene. So he has to do damage control. So he's like, oh, so here, y'all, keep drinking. Have a good time. Hold on. My trusted crew, come with me. Come on. So he gets his crew together, his council, which is his group of yes men. So, makes sense? Bump her. Just put a full decree out there that tells not only Vashti, but everybody's wife that they have to obey their husbands and respect them and what they say. Everything goes. And if they don't, you're outed. And then on top of that, I'm going to issue a decree and find you a new wife. And he's like, okay. So in that one moment, Vashti lost her entire crown. So she was disposed, pushed out from the kingdom. She's no longer the queen. So I can't tell you she was invalidated, but baby, she chose the wrong day to put her foot down. She had no strategy. Don't let that go over your head. Have some strategy. So she gets put out. So that's the scene. So at this point, the banquet is now done. Vashti has left with the guests, baby. She is no longer the queen. And now the king is just sitting. He done came down from his buzz. He's starting to feel a little sad. He's like, dang, Vashti, I miss you. Why you didn't come? And then his council said, no need to be sad. You're the king. We're going to call for all of the virgins and the kingdom and bring them to you so that you can find a new queen. And he said, you know what? That don't sound so bad. A play is going to play. So he does. So this is where Esther comes in. She is a young virgin of the kingdom. She is, again, a Jewish girl, but that is not what her identity that she leads with. So Mordecai advises her, hold on to revealing your true identity. Just do your best and remember everything I taught you. And we're going to go from there. He sends her off. So we're going to pause here for more context before we keep going in the story. So something to know is that Mordecai, as I told you, is also a Jew, but he is someone who has effectively championed his exile, meaning that he has now honored his Jewish identity. And if you don't know, true to Jewish culture and religious belief is that there is one God and they worship Yahweh, which is God and God only. But in the time and setting that most Jewish people are, it's in times and in kingdoms where multi-gods are common, which is a lot of the cause of discontent with their leaders, because most times these leaders want their people to revere them as if they are gods, which power hungry. I tell you this because Mordecai does a good job of honoring the fact that he's only going to serve one God, but he does respect and in some ways assimilate to the customs and the politics of Persian culture, meaning he's done a good job career-wise of working his way up the political system of Persian culture, despite the fact that he is Jewish. Which is now Esther is not at the palace. She's a part of, we're going to try to keep this above water, but child, this is the history. He had a lot of young women put up to the side in a special area of the palace, and he was trying to find his way to his queen. Use your good due diligence, read between the lines to figure out what was happening. All right, moving along. So the time came, Esther's time has come. She has her meeting with the king and she leaves a lasting mark. There's something important to remember here in this. He has now been brought every young woman of the kingdom and they have all been groomed. We're going to call it what it is. They've all been groomed and prepared. This includes beauty treatments. The Bible tells you this. These women are given a year of beauty treatments before they're even allowed to be sent to the king. So like this is a system, a well-oiled machine. And so her time has come. But all this year through her preparation, the person that's assigned to oversee them, take care of them, groom them, help them come up to speed, she's taking a very humble and wisdom approach of learning, of saying, I'm in this place. I don't know everything. I don't even know why I'm really here, where I'm going, but I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to reach out humbly to the people around me for help and guidance. And that is important. Don't let that go over your head because she's separating herself. She's not just beauty. She has character. And that is what steals King Xerxes' heart and says, you are my new queen. So Esther becomes the new queen. Pause. Now we're leading to Mordecai uncovering a conspiracy. So remember I told you he's a political worker for the kingdom, and so he spends a lot of time around the palace. So at one day, he's sitting at the palace gates and he overhears two soldiers who work for the kingdom, thus the king in the palace, and he overhears them plotting an assassination. So you gotta remember, Mordecai is a Jew. First of all, that don't even involve me. Shoot, I don't even know if I like the king to begin with. Do I really want to tell him it's an assassination plot? It was the right thing to do, but it came with the risk. One, will I be heard? Two, these aren't my people. They really don't be treating my people right to begin with. So what I look like helping their leader. But this is an important moment in the Bible and in the story. Don't let it go over your head. Mordecai chose the right thing. He notified the king. Let the king know the two soldiers who had made this plan. They were handled, dealt with. What do I mean? You know, you got it. So that happened. So in that, Mordecai has now thwarted an assassination attempt against the king, but he is not rewarded right away. Remember that. Enters new player. New player, Haman. So Haman is from descendants of, hold on, let me get my words right, because child, these Bible names be a lot. It's from Agagite. Child, don't quote me. We all here together. We sound it out. Agagite. Agagite. We gonna roll with that. Agagite. So he is of Agagite descendant, which history lesson, checking in. Agagite people were their ancestor was a ruler who actively sought to kill and oppress Jewish people. Like, there was a huge racial motivated effort to Jewish people. And it eventually led to Jewish people being exiled and sent away. To give context to who Haman is. So it is in his DNA, mind, body, soul, DNA, that he hates Jewish people. Inherently prejudiced, based on race. And what God is about to show you through this lesson is, baby, you will never win being racist, prejudiced, rooted in evil. Baby, you will set a trap for yourself. Let us learn. Now, where is it in time? He is working his way up the ladder as well within the kingdom, but he is closer to the king. In fact, he has just been awarded the position of second to the king. He is second in command. He is high on life. He is also very arrogant. He is high on himself, honey. His stuff don't stink. And if it did, give me more. I want to smell it. Okay? That's how he is. The man is full of it, and it is himself. So with that said, what is the number one nemesis to a person who is full of themselves, is arrogant, and is prejudicially motivated in hatred? Anybody know? All right then. It is people who do not bow to him or serve their position as being beneath his foot, as he thinks that everyone is. He respects the king's power, and that's it. Everybody else, you beneath me. Treat it as such. Mordecai, he ain't that guy. Remember, Mordecai is Jewish and he only has one God, the God, and he's not going for it. And if they have an instance, Mordecai and Haman, they meet at the gate, baby. And Haman said, Mordecai, I haven't heard about you. I heard about your name. I'm second in command now. Right. That's Haman telling Mordecai that he should bow. And Mordecai said, and that right there was the start of the fire that led Haman to his demise. Because from right there, he decided, not only do I want to get Mordecai and kill him, I want to eradicate all the Jews. Get rid of all of them. You all got to go. So he very connivingly tricks the king into signing a new law that Haman wants. And this very law, it's a year out. It sets a date for a year out in which it is allowed that all Jews can and all of their businesses, homes plundered. Pretty much mass extinction. Stamp, put a date on it. It's in a year. And he uses the king's signet, which is your signature ring, custom to stamp that thing and put a date on it. It's official. What is going on? So now the people are in distress. All the Jewish people of the kingdom are in distress. They don't know what to do, what's going on. Mordecai is upset. This is where plan becomes action. This is where faith is put into works. This is where leadership comes in. This is where selflessness comes in. This is where the hand of God being in the details comes in. Haman had special beef with Mordecai, remember? Because Mordecai looked him in his face and said, I'm not bowing to you. and he got something special for him. So he done got home. He with his peoples. They all in the kitchen. They chatting. They talking it up. He got his wife in his ear. 10 toes beside him. Wrong and all. Evil and all. She with him. And they're like, nobody's more powerful than me now. That Mordecai despised him. He's ill, sick of the earth. And they're like, oh, you got plans for him. You know what we should do? Impale him. We got plans for him. You know what? We gonna exactly. And we're going to do it special. We're going to do it big. We're going to make sure everybody see it. So we're going to put this big old pole up outside our house, 75 feet in the air. Baby, they spared no expense. 75 feet in the air. And we're going to employ this tactic. And we're going to get Mordecai. And he's going to be on that pole. And every single day we walk in and out this house, we're going to see our enemy right up there. And he said he won't bow to me. Watch this. He gonna be on that pole still. But he didn't know God was working. So on the other side of the coin, once this decree has hit, Mordecai has received this notice. And he said, y'all gonna do what? On what day? He said, not on my watch. He said, excuse me, can you please go get my little cousin? Yes, her name is Esther. Queen Esther to you. They said, we can go get her, but we'll relay a message. He said, oh, okay. So we'll tell her that there's this new decree that's happening and they planning all of us. So they sent the message. All of this is by pigeon. And by pigeon, palace workers. They the back and forth. This was before text messages, phone calls. You couldn't FaceTime. We can talk to face, but we got time to send these workers back and forth to relay the message. So he lets her know this is what's going on. And she gets shook. And she's like, what are we going to do? And she pretty much is like, at first, this is bigger than me. I don't really know what we're going to do from here. We're going to pray about it, wish it the best. And Mordecai said, no, ma'am. Is it not that God appointed you? Actually, this is where we need a direct quote. Hold on, let me tell you what Mordecai told her. Mordecai tells the messenger all of these things, and then also it says, tell Esther she has to do something. She has to go to the king and tell him and plead for our people. She gets this message and then says back, oh my God, this is awful, but I haven't seen the king in 30 days. And if I just go up to him and haven't been summoned, I could be, because anybody who goes to the king who is not summoned, if he does not extend a gold scepter to you, you are. So even though she's the queen, she still is operating in limited authority. She is still operating within this system and can also be not only from this edict, but from the king by not operating within this. Again, let us pause for the context. She's the queen and ain't seen her man in a month. Exactly. So Vashidi, why you couldn't just do that walkthrough? You don't even see that man that often. But you know what? Let's stay focused. That ain't what this is about. Anywho, staying on focus. So this is where Mordecai says back. This is where I wanted to pull the Bible out to read this word for word. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. We got to break this down. There's quite a few meaty things that Mordecai is saying here. Mordecai has said, one, don't think that your privileges exempt you from what is happening to your people. And don't let that go over your head. Because in today's time, in which no matter where you are in the world, there's likely to be one population of people, usually based on race, color, or religion, that are being oppressed. So whether that is you, where you stand, in whatever country, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Here in America, if you black, do not think that just because you have money, you are exempt from what's going on to your people around you. Do not think that because you have a job with the government. Do not think that because you have a friend that works at the right place. Do not think that because you have certain privileges and luxuries, you're exempt from what's happening to people that look like you. Just because you got money for a lawyer doesn't mean that you're exempt. And that is what Mordecai is saying to her. Do not think that just because you are in a palace, you're exempt to what is happening to everybody who looks like you. You are still a Jewish person. And these people are still your people. Just because you have a new address doesn't change that. And that's important because remember, Mordecai raised her and he's reiterating what I'm sure he raised her up to believe. And to know, be proud of who you are and know that no matter where God takes you, you are who he created you to be. And everything that happens to people who looks like you is happening to you, whether it's at your doorstep for that day or not. Next thing he says, God will deliver us. He reiterates that he has full faith in God. He said, despite what this edict says, with the date on it in which my people, including me, will be perished, will be annihilated, I know God will save us. I have so much faith in my God. He said it before that he will save his people. And he will. And he's saying God will intervene. But is it going to come from you and us? Or is it going to come from another way? And he's saying we have this opportunity to act for God and for his people. We can intercede. The third part, to not let go ahead, in Mordecai's response. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. And all the old English words, what he's saying is, do you not know God put you as queen for this reason? Do you not think that God made you queen ahead of time so that you could be the person to intercede and step up? You may have thought you got this position and you were appointed queen because you beautiful. He liked you the most out of the rest. That's why. You talk the best. You were in the right place at the right time. All of that could be true. But what is also true is that God had a purpose and a plan, and that he put you in the proper place preemptively so that when that time came, you were where you needed to be to act on his behalf. And that is what Mordecai is telling her. Your power, your title does not exempt you from what's happening to your people. 2, God is going to move regardless. I know he's going to do that. And 3, God put you in place to be that person. So it's time that you act on it. And you know what? What Esther said, like a queen and a G. She stepped up to the plate, baby, like a leader. And we're going to break down all of her leadership skills. Because she said, all right, I have assessed it. Esther sent her reply to Mordecai, go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went away and carried out all of Esther's instructions. After Mordecai said that she accepted responsibility and accountability, she said, you know what, you're right. She honored that I'm here with a purpose. She honored that what she knew about her God. I perish, I perish. She weighed the cost. If I perish, I perish. The cost of this mission is actually, for some of us, we got it better. It's not. If we stand up for what is right, our cost might be a lost job. Our cost might be favor with our boss. If we stand up for what is right, our cost might be not being popular. Our cost might be you're looked at a little different. And so what you're saying is you would rather please people than God. Anywho, the people around her, I need you and everybody in this county to go and fast. Everybody says to go and fast. She says what she's going to do as a leader. She delegates and she shares what she's going to do. Her responsibility. I'm also going to fast. And in 3 days, fast and pray. And in 3 days, I will go to the king. And she honors these actions. She does it. Esther got beautified, honey. She put on her royal robes and she went and she stood in the inner courts and she waited on the king to notice her. And he did. Is that my lovely new wife out there? Comes in. But this is where you have to have tact and you cannot rush the process. Even once God has given you your plan, stick to it in God's timing. Don't move too late. Don't move too fast. And the details of how this plays out is going to highlight this. We ain't going to let it go over our head. So he said, what is it, my lovely king, my lovely queen? What is it that you need, Esther? And she said, I have a great petition for you. But first, I would like to invite you to a banquet. What that mean? I want to come and feed you. So she had all of the chefs, her palace people, to put together this dinner. And she invites the king, but she also invites Haman. Y'all remember Haman? So she invites the king and her number one enemy to this banquet. So they go to this banquet. She got them eating good. The drinks are going. They enjoying themselves. And the king's like, I got enough. You didn't invite me to a banquet for nothing. So what is your request, my dear Esther? And whatever you request, it will be yours, up to half the kingdom. That is what he says to her. The king says to her, what is it that you want and need? What is your petition? But timing. Esther says, she knows how important it is. She says, I will ask you tomorrow at another banquet. Come back tomorrow. And he said, so that night, remind you that she already set the tone. She getting the bellies full. She's in their presence. She's already gotten through the door. That was the first risk, that I could perish just by approaching him without being called for. First thing, we got the dinner. That night, there's 2 things happening. Haman has went home and told his family and updated them. Guess what happened today, y'all? You won't believe this. The queen has held a banquet and she invited no other than the king and myself. That's how important I am. Only me and the king were invited to the queen's banquet. I'm there. I'm that guy. But, oh, this is too good. You know what? It's time to execute the plan. Go ahead and get ready for this. We got to put this poll to use. Go ahead and get ready. When you go into work tomorrow, go ahead and plan. Let's get the ball rolling and see if you get Mordecai specifically so we can get him up on the poll ahead of that date that's in a year. Go ahead and do that tomorrow. He said, I'm going to do that. On the other side, the king is having his night after the first banquet and he can't sleep. He's not resting peacefully. And what any good king does when he cannot rest peacefully, he calls his servants to come and read to him. Not just any book, no nursery rhyme. No, read me my autobiography. You can't make this up. It's so funny. And so in doing this, remember, God is in the details. God has his own plan that he's working at all times. At the same time, he's entrusting his people to be obedient and do their part. This is God doing his part. So while Haman has his servants reading to him about his kingdom, they remind him of the great Mordecai who let him know about a plan to assassinate him. And he realizes, I never rewarded him. He asks his servants, what was the reward? How did we say thank you? And they tell him, you did it. He said, oh my God. And this is one thing. For all the character flaws that he has as a very self-centered and selfish man, he is very decisive, even if wrongfully guided. But he also has the character to right his wrongs. And that is something that we do not want to miss in this book. So he's like, okay, I'm going to handle that tomorrow. We're going to reward him. New day. So Haman, remember, he had his plan. He asked him, so Haman, how do you think a great person for doing an amazing deed for our kingdom should be honored? And Haman in his selfish thinking is like, oh, he's talking about me. He's talking about how to honor me. King, I know exactly what you should do. Let me tell you how to honor me. You should put me on your finest horse, drape me in all of your robes, and have one of your highest officials walk me around the town and tell everyone how that I am worthy to be praised and celebrated because of what I did for the king and how happy and proud of me you are. Parade me through the city in all the finest. And the king said, brilliant. You do it for Mordecai. That's what I need.
What? What?
Haman said, Mordecai who? I do who? Baby, Mordecai is sick. Okay? Sick. With the plans to get the green light on Mordecai, and instead he was told, you will walk him around in a grand parade. God is good, but it don't stop there. It doesn't stop there. So that has to happen. Haman is angry, but he does it. Then the second banquet comes. This is where everything hits the fan. All right, so they're in the second banquet. You remember the banquet is hosted by Esther for her king, Xerxes, and Haman. It's the three of them. And again, the king asks, this is a wonderful banquet, Queen Esther. What is your petition? You will be granted anything that you ask up to half of the kingdom. And she says, you're saying, also be mindful of the timing of which you use that information. And that is what Esther does here. And she highlights it as such. Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition. And spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. King Xerxes asked Queen, who is he? Where is he? The man who has dared do such a thing. Baby, she said, an adversary, an enemy. This vile Haman. Baby, Haman was terrified. When I tell you shaking in his boots, he went from being lavish, chilling it up in the Garden of Eden to, I'm sorry, wait, what? You mean me? Furies. He said, oh, what are we about to do? He said, stay right there. Haman, don't you move. He walks out, talks to his people, gets some things in order, and said, what are we going to do with Haman? And they let him know. They said, well, a pool. Baby, when I tell you, enemies will set the traps for themselves. When the king came back in, after he had left out in his rage, he had collected himself and came back. He saw Haman groveling at Esther's feet, trying to beg for mercy. And the king said, "Will he even in my house?" Sorry, I should not say that on the internet. "Will he touch the queen in this way, even in my house?" And then one of the king's attendants said, "A pole reaching a height of 50 cubits stands by Haman's house. He had it set up for Mordecai, who spoke up to help the king." The king said, "Impale him on it." Honey, just that fast, the tide has changed, and it gets better. We're going to keep going before we start breaking it down in the conclusion. It doesn't stop there, because remember, there's an edict out. There's a law out that has set a date where all the Jews can be attacked, plundered. Sorry, I shouldn't say attacked, annihilated, plundered. So the Lord's restoration, when I say he will restore everything the locust ate, back in the Bible, I'm going to read it from chapter 8. So that same day, Haman is impaled on the same pipe he had set up for Mordecai. He is impaled on it. He then gives Haman's estate to Queen Esther. So all of his estate, his wealth are now going to his exact enemies, Esther and Mordecai. Mordecai gets his position. What do we do about the rest of the people? And that is where the king says, "Because Haman attacked the Jews, I have given his estate to Esther, and they have impaled him on the pole he set up. Now write another decree in the king's name on behalf of the Jews as seems best to you." He doesn't even write it himself. He allows Mordecai to write it. And the only thing Mordecai's right is that on this date that has been predetermined, Jewish people have the right to fight back. And baby, when that day comes, do they? They fight back. And they don't fight to just go out and rage and riot. They only fight those who attack them. All of their belongings, the Jewish people do not do that. They stop at their self-defense, at you not about to take my life and you not about to threaten me in my life. I'm about to take yours, cut that in the bud, and we good. I don't need your things. I don't want them. It's not about that. And then it goes a step further. You remember Haman, he them 10 sons? They go ahead and wipe him out too. They do. It get real in the Bible, y'all. It ain't all peaches and roses. I'm gonna keep it a buck. They definitely run it back, hunt them down. I ain't gonna say hunt, but if they find them, annihilate them too. So out of this one man's evil and wicked heart, and that he was power hungry, what God shows us is so many things in this lens. Let's look at it from the first lens. Those rooted in prejudicial and racially biased evil and power greed and a desire for more and more power recognition, it will only lead to their own rot and demise. Every trap they set will be for their own destruction. It is self-destructive. Enemies set a plan and a trap, he will intercede and use it as their own. That job he loved so much because he was second in command and he felt that made him a god, that is not Mordecai's role. And Mordecai still to this day has done it only worshiping God. His estate, all that wealth, that is Esther's. His bloodline, his erased. All 10 of those sons are gone, annihilated, literally removed. God does not play. He does not play when it comes to the protection and sovereignty of his people. The other ones, looking at Mordecai and Esther, no matter what position and privilege you get, you don't forget who you are, that you are God's child. And you do not allow an opportunity to act on behalf of God to pass you by, no matter the risk. You don't wait on let it for somebody else. You fight for God. You fight for his people. And you trust that God will be your protection. She stood up, and do it with strategy and tact, with prayer and fasting. Do it with God, his way. Trust his timing, and you will prevail with victory. Are there any other lessons, Lord? Yes, please don't miss Vashidi's lesson. Child, be mindful when you put your foot down. If you have a responsibility and a duty, do it. Even when you don't feel like it, because you might just step yourself out of a blessing. You just might. That could be the last. So do not turn down your duty off of an emotion. Know that that comes with consequences. And from the lens of King Xerxes, do not allow yourself to be easily manipulated. If you are a head of a household, if you have power and authority, do not allow yourself to be easily manipulated. Take a moment to separate from your emotions before acting. He said yes to an annihilation of the people without even thinking about it, asking more questions, realizing the impact. But he did also right every single moment of wrong and oversight that he had. So in a whole, there was a lot to learn and gain from the book of Esther. At no point is God mentioned by name in this book. I think that's important to realize, but yet you see him in every bit of it. You see the way that God in the details, the delaying of Mordecai's reward for doing the right thing. He notified the king of the assassination attempt, but God didn't give his reward until later when it mattered. Is a lot of God. And I pray that my breakdown today has given you some insight, some enlightenment, and brought you closer to God and helped you understand. Because I know a lot of times these old folk words can get a little lost in the sauce. And you're like, what am I really reading? What does this really mean? So I hope that through my interpretation, you were able to get a little closer with Esther, with me. And that this, wherever you are, like so many countries in a state of oppression, remember that these powers, they will never override God. This evil and this wicked that is happening will only lead to their own demise. God has literally shown you. So I don't say be blind, naive, and just live in your bubble with no care in the world. You need to protect your peace, but you also need to know God got you and back that with action. When God gives you an opportunity to act on something, to stand up for his people, to stand up for justice, make sure you rise to the occasion and trust that God's got you. He's going to be your security, your provision, your backup. He's going to deliver you through, and he's going to deliver a lot more people with you. It's not just about you. So, with that said, go out and have a blessed and prosperous day. And may Esther, the book of Esther, carry you far. And thanks for joining me. I love you all. Lead with love, and may God guide your way. Peace.